All right. Hello, everyone. I'm Lee. Happy Sabbath. And we're going to go through some more of Genesis. Stopped at chapter 36 last time. So we'll be reading from the Dead Sea Scrolls fragments on Dead Sea Scrolls EnglishBible.com and Google Books, Dead Sea Scrolls English Bible translation. And let's see, I'll go back here if I can bring it up. Yeah, here we go. Dead Sea Scrolls. This is it right here. I got the paper copy too. I like having a paper copy. But that's that. And the Septuagint, Brenton Septuagint, and the KJV. And got the Blue Letter Bible app pulled up for looking at the original Hebrew and words. Strong's H7225. Yep. Gives a definition, all that. The Targum, Aramaic Targums, Pseudo Jonathan. Got on Kelos there too. I got Pseudo Jonathan pulled up. Book of Jubilees, found in the Dead Sea Scrolls, quoted by Genesis. And, yep. So let's see where we're at. We're at Genesis 37. We have 5 and 22. There's 1, 27 through 29. We got a little bit. 1, 5 to 22, and 30. Alright, so let's start with verse 1. Jacob lived in the land of his father's travels in the land of Canaan. This is the history of the generations of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brothers. He was a boy with the sons of Bilhah and Zilpah, his father's wives. Joseph brought an evil report of them to their father. So, verse 1 and 2. And we've got, the next one is 5 and 6. Let's see what KJV says. Now, Israel loved Joseph more than all his children because he was the son of his old age, and he made him a coat of many colors. And when his brethren saw that their father loved him more than all his brethren, they hated him and could not speak peaceably unto him. And let's look here at Genesis 37, 3. Coat of many colors. My brother Isaiah actually pointed this out. It's interesting. Of many colors. Many is added, no Hebrew word. That's just the English word. Coat of colors, H6446, pas, from the root word. And flat of hand or foot, palm, sole of a tunic reaching to the palms and soles. And the root word, Palsas, to disappear, vanish, cease, fail, to vanish. Diverse colors. Second Samuel 13:18. She had a garment of diverse colors upon her, for with such robes were the king's daughters that were virgins apparelled. Then his servant brought her out and bolted the door after her. So that's in 2 Samuel. Tamar put ashes on her head and rent her garment of diverse colors that was on her, laid her hand on her head, and went on crying. 2 Samuel 13:18 and 19. And Genesis 37:23, it came to pass when Joseph was come unto his brethren that they stripped Joseph out of his coat of many colors that was on him. And they sent the coat of many colors, brought it to their father. So that's interesting. The king's daughters that were virgins had the same coat that Joseph had. And Chaldee lexicon. Tunic extending to the wrists. Long tunic with sleeves. So it gives you a little bit more definition to see what it looked like. And in the Targums, a figured robe he went forth from the school. Okay, this is 36. 30. No, that's not 36, is it? Let's see. Genesis, 36. It starts at 36. So 37. No, that's 38. Hold on, where's it at? It says 36 through 40 there. The figured garment. And Joseph dreamed. Now, okay, here we go. Because the likeness, Israel loved Joseph more than all his sons, because the likeness of Joseph resembled his own, and he made him a figured robe. Let's see what Onkelos has to say here. 37 through 40. And okay, Israel loved Joseph more than all his sons because he had in him a wise son, and he made him a variegated robe. So one says because he looked like him, the other says because he was a wise son. And so 5 is up next. Joseph dreamed a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him all the more. He said to them, "Please hear this dream which I have dreamed. For behold, we were binding sheaves in the field, and lo, my sheaf arose, and also stood upright, and behold, your sheaves stood round about, and made obeisance to my sheaf. And his brethren said to him, Shalt thou indeed reign over us? Or shalt thou indeed have dominion over us? And they hated him yet the more for his dreams and for his words. And he dreamed yet another dream, and told it his brethren, and said, Behold, I have dreamed a dream more, and behold, the sun and the moon and the 11 stars made obeisance to me. And he told it to his father and to his brethren, and his father rebuked him and said unto him, Why is this dream that thou hast dreamed? Shall I and thy mother and thy brethren indeed come to bow down ourselves to thee to the earth? And his brethren envied him, but his father observed the saying. And his brethren went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. And Israel said unto Joseph, Do not thy brethren feed the flock in Shechem? Come, and I will send thee unto them. And he said to him, Here am I. And he said to him, Go, I pray thee, see whether it be well with thy brethren, and well with the flocks, and bring me word again. So he sent him out of the vale of Hebron, and he came to Shechem. And a certain man found him, and behold, he was wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, What seekest thou? And he said, I seek my brethren. Tell me, I pray thee, where they feed their flocks. And the man said, They are departed hence, for I heard them say, Let us go to Dothan. And Joseph went after his brethren, and found them in Dothan. And when they saw him afar off, even before he came near unto them, they conspired against him to slay him. And they said one to another, Behold, this dreamer cometh. Come now, therefore, and let us slay him, and cast him into some pit, and we will say, Some evil beast hath devoured him, and we shall see what will become of his dreams. And Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands, and said, Let us not kill him. And Reuben said unto them, Shed no blood, but cast him into this pit that is in the wilderness, and lay no hand upon him, that he might rid him out of their hands, to deliver him to his father again. And it came to pass, when Joseph was come unto his brethren, that they stripped Joseph out of his coat of many colors that was on him, and they took him and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty, there was no water in it. Let's see, 25. Oh, yeah, 22 here. Let's see if it's pretty close to it, 27, 28, so 22. Reuben said to them, Shed no blood. Obviously, Reuben learned his mistake from lying with his father's wife. He repented. Now he's wiser for it. Throw him into this pit that is in the wilderness, but lay no hand on him, that he might deliver him out of their hand, to restore him to his father. When Joseph came to his brothers, they stripped Joseph of his tunic, the tunic of many colors that was on him, and they took him and threw him into the pit. The pit was empty, there was no water in it. They sat down to eat bread, and they lifted up their eyes and looked, and saw a caravan of Ishmaelites was coming from Gilead, with their camels bearing spices and balm and myrrh, going to carry it down to Egypt. And Judah said to his brothers, What profit is it if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come and let's sell him to the Ishmaelites, and not let our hand be on him. For he is our brother and our flesh. His brothers listened to him. 27, and not let our hand, for he is our brother. Midianites, who were the merchants, passed by. That's the Ishmaelites. And they drew and lifted up Joseph out of the pit, and sold Joseph to the Ishmaelites for 20 pieces of silver. The merchants brought Joseph into Egypt. Reuben returned to the pit, and saw that Joseph wasn't in the pit, and he tore his clothes. He returned to his brothers and said, The child is no more, and I, where will I go? 29. And he returned unto his brethren and said, The child is not, and I, whither will I go? And they took Joseph's coat and killed a kid of the goats and dipped the coat in blood. And they sent the coat of many colors, and they brought it to their father and said, This have we found. Know now whether it be thy son's coat or no. And he knew it and said, It is my son's coat, and an evil beast hath devoured him. Joseph is without doubt rent in pieces. And Jacob rent his clothes and put sackcloth upon his loins and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and all his daughters rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, For I will go down into the grave unto my son mourning. Thus his father wept for him. And the Midianites sold him into Egypt unto Potiphar, an officer of the Pharaohs and a captain of the guard. 38. And feed the flock. No, that's 30. 39. Well, there's no 38. Yeah, I guess not. No 38 in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So let's see. 30. 34. And 34 in the book of Jubilees. They have, here's the Amorite battle. 7 kings of the Amorites. Yep. All the kings came against him, all who dwell in the mountains, dwell in the woods and land of Canaan. The kings have surrounded thy sons and plundered thy herds. slew them, pastor, for the shoot them, slew them, slew. And Jacob arose from his house, and his 3 sons, and all the servants of his father, his own servants. He went against them with 6,000 men. So he had Levi, Judah, and Joseph. Is that the 3 sons? So he prevailed over them, imposed tribute on them. That'll be something to remember for later in Genesis, because he'll quote that. He returned in peace. They became servants unto him till the day he went down into Egypt. And here in the 7th year of this week, he sent Joseph to learn about the welfare of his brothers from his house to the land of Shechem, and he found them in the land of Dothan, and they dealt treacherously with him. So this is where we're at in Genesis. And they formed a plot against him to slay him, but changing their minds, they sold him to Ishmaelite merchants, Midianites, and they brought him down into Egypt, and they sold him to Potiphar, the eunuch of Pharaoh, the chief of the cooks, priest of the city. Now, what's interesting about that is, here we go. Yep, there it is. And the sons of Jacob slaughtered a kid and dipped the coat of Joseph in the blood, and sent it to Jacob their father on the 10th of the 7th month. And he mourned all that night, for they had brought it to him in the evening, and he became feverish with mourning for his death. And he said, an evil beast hath devoured Joseph. And all the members of his house mourned with him that day, and they were grieving and mourning with him all that day. And his sons and his daughter rose up to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted for his son. And on that day Bilhah heard that Joseph had perished, and she died mourning for him. So Bilhah died mourning for Joseph, and she was living in a Kaphratif. And Dinah also, his daughter, died after Joseph had perished. So Joseph's gone, Bilhah dies, Dinah dies. And there came these 3 mournings upon Israel in 1 month, and they buried Bilhah over against the tomb of Rachel, and Dinah also his daughter they buried there. He mourned for Joseph for 1 year and did not cease, and he said, let me go down to the grave mourning for my son. For this reason it is ordained for the children of Israel that they should afflict themselves on the 10th of the 7th month, on the day that the news which made him weep for Joseph came to Jacob his father, that they should make atonement for themselves thereon with a young goat on the 10th of the 7th month, once a year for their sins, for they had grieved the affliction of their father regarding Joseph his son. And this day hath been ordained that they should grieve thereon for all their sins, and for all their transgressions, and for all their errors, so they might cleanse themselves on that day once a year. Okay. Was this before the mountain or after the mountain? This is before they even went into Egypt, that this was ordained for Israel to do. The wives of and after, that continues. And after Joseph perished, the sons of Jacob took unto themselves wives. The name of Reuben's wife Adah, the name of Simeon's wife Adebah, a Canaanite, in the name of Levi's wife Milcah, of the daughters of Aram, of the seed of the sons of Terah, in the name of Judah's wife Betsuel, a Canaanite, in the name of Issachar's wife Hezekiah, the name of Zebulun's wife Naaman, the name of Dan's wife Eglah, in the name of Naphtali's wife Rasu of Mesopotamia, in the name of Gad's wife Makah, in the name of Asher's wife Ajonah, in the name of Joseph's wife Asenath, the Egyptian, in the name of Benjamin's wife Ajasakah. And Simeon repented and took a second wife from Mesopotamia as his brothers. Simeon repented because he had taken a Canaanite to be destroyed. They're not supposed to marry him. And Rebekah called Jacob her son in the first week of the 45th Jubilee, first year, that'd be 2157 after creation. She commanded him, his father, regarding his father and regarding his brother, that he should honor them all the days of his life. And Jacob said, I will do everything as thou hast commanded me. For this thing will be honor and greatness to me, and righteousness before Yahuwah, that I should honor them. And thou too, mother, knowest from the time I was born until this day all my deeds and all that is in my heart, that I always think good concerning all. And how should I not do this thing which thou hast commanded me, that I should honor my father and my brother? Tell me, mother, what perversity hast thou seen in me, and I shall turn away from it, and mercy will be upon me. And she said unto him, My son, I have not seen in thee all my days any perverse, but only upright deeds. And yet I shall tell thee the truth, my son. I shall die this year, and I shall not survive this year of my life. For I have seen in a dream the day of my death, that I should not live beyond 155 years. And behold, I have completed all the days of my life, which I am to live. And Jacob laughed at the words of his mother, because his mother had said unto him that she should die. And she was sitting opposite to him in possession of her strength, and she was not infirm in her strength, for she went in and out and saw, and her teeth were strong, and no ailment had touched her all the days of her life. And Jacob said unto her, Blessed am I, mother, if my days approach the days of thy life, and my strength remain with me thus as thy strength, and thou wilt not die, for thou art jesting idly with me regarding thy death. And she went in to Isaac and said unto him, One petition I make unto thee, make Esau swear that he will not injure Jacob, nor pursue him with enmity. For thou knowest Esau's thoughts, that they are perverse from his youth, and there is no goodness in him. For he desires after thy death to kill him. And thou knowest all that he hath done since the day Jacob his brother went to Haran until this day, how he hath forsaken us with his whole heart, and hath done evil to us. Thy flocks he hath taken to himself, and carried off all thy possessions from before thy face. And when we implored and besought him for what was our own, he did as a man who was taking pity on us. And he is bitter against thee, because thou didst bless Jacob, thy perfect and upright son. For there is no evil, but only goodness in him. And since he came from Haran unto this day, he hath not robbed us of aught. For he bringeth us everything in its season always, and rejoiceth with all his heart when we take at his hands. And he blesseth us, and hath not parted from us since he came from Haran until this day, and he remaineth with us continually at home, honoring us. And Isaac said unto her, I too know and see the deeds of Jacob who is with us, know that with all his heart he honoreth us, but I loved Esau formerly more than Jacob, because he was the firstborn. But now I love Jacob more than Esau, for he hath done manifold evil deeds, and there is no righteousness in him. For all his ways are unrighteousness and violence, and there is no righteousness around him. And now my heart is troubled because of all his deeds, and neither he nor his seed is to be saved. For they are those who will be destroyed from the earth, and who will be rooted out from under heaven. For he hath forsaken the Elohim of Abraham, and gone after wives, and after their uncleanness, and after their error, he and his children. And thou dost bid me make him swear that he will not slay Jacob his brother. Even if he swear, he will not abide by his oath, and he will not do good but evil only. But if he desireth to slay Jacob his brother, into Jacob's hands will he be given, and he will not escape from his hands, for he will descend into his hands. And fear thou not on account of Jacob, for the guardian of Jacob is great and powerful and honored, and praised more than the guardian of Esau. What's he talking about there? The angels. And Rebekah sent and called Esau, and he came to her. And she said unto him, I have a petition, my son, to make unto thee, and do thou promise to do it, my son. And he said, I will do everything that thou sayest unto me, and I will not refuse thy petition. And she said unto him, I ask you that the day I die, thou wilt take me in and bury me near Sarah thy father's mother, and that thou and Jacob will love each other, and that neither will desire evil against the other, but mutual love only. And so you will prosper, my sons, and be honored in the midst of the land, and no enemy will rejoice over you. And you will be a blessing and a mercy in the eyes of all that love you. And he said, I will do all that thou hast told me, and I shall bury thee on the day thou diest near Sarah, my father's mother, as thou hast desired, that her bones may be near thy bones. And Jacob my brother also I shall love above all flesh, for I have not a brother in all the earth but him only, and there is no great merit for me if I love him. For he is my brother, and we were sown together in thy body. and together came we forth from thy womb. And if I do not love my brother, whom shall I love? And I myself beg thee to exhort Jacob concerning me and concerning my sons, for I know that he will surely be king over me and my sons. For on the day my father blessed him, he made him the higher and me the lower. And I swear unto thee that I shall love him and not desire evil against him all the days of my life, but good only. And he sware unto her regarding all this matter. And she called Jacob before the eyes of Esau, and gave him commandment according to the words which she had spoken to Esau. And he said, I shall do thy pleasure. Believe me that no evil will proceed from me or from my sons against Esau, and I shall be first in naught save in love only. And they ate and drank, she and her sons, that night, and she died 3 jubilees in 1 week and 1 year old on that night. And her 2 sons, Esau and Jacob, buried her in the cave near Sarah, their father's mother. And you get the account here for Isaac. A lot of filled in details that you don't get in Jubilees. Jubilees 36, in the 6th year of this week, Isaac called his 2 sons Esau and Jacob, and they came to him, and he said unto them, My sons, I am going the way of my fathers to the eternal house, where my fathers are. Wherefore bury me near Abraham my father in the double cave in the field of Ephron the Hittite, where Abraham purchased a sepulchre to bury in. In the sepulchre which I digged for myself, there bury me. In this I command you, my sons, that you practice righteousness and uprightness on the earth, so that Yahuwah may bring upon you all that Yahuwah said that he would do to Abraham and to his seed. And love one another, my sons, your brothers, as a man who loveth his own soul. And let each seek in what may benefit his brother, and act together on the earth. And let them love each other as their own souls. And concerning the question of idols, I command and admonish you to reject them and hate them, and love them not, for they are full of deception for those that worship them and for those that bow down to them. And 1 John 5:21, he says, Little children, keep yourselves from idols. Amen. Reject them and hate them. And let's see. Remember ye, my sons, Yahuwah, Elohim of Abraham your father, and how I too worshipped him and served him in righteousness and in joy, that he might multiply you and increase your seed as the stars of heaven in multitude, and establish you on the earth as a plant of righteousness, which will not be rooted out unto all the generations forever. And now I shall make you swear a great oath, for there is no oath which is greater than it, by the name glorious and honored, and great and splendid and wonderful and mighty, which created the heavens and the earth and all things together, that you will fear him and worship him, and that each will love his brother with affection and righteousness, and that neither will desire evil against his brother from henceforth forever all the days of your life, so that you may prosper in all your deeds and not be destroyed. Sounds like the same thing what Enoch told his son Methuselah, and Noah told his sons, and Abraham told his sons. Now Isaac's telling his sons, giving them righteous instructions. And if either of you deviseth evil against his brother, know that from henceforth everyone that deviseth evil against his brother will fall into his hand, and will be rooted out of the land of the living, and his seed will be destroyed from under the heaven. That is my portion in the land of the living. David, land of the living. Job, land of the living. Where's it at? Ezekiel 32, in the land of the living. Ezekiel 32 there. Isaiah 38. Like something the righteous men say. And his seed will be destroyed from under heaven, but on the day of turbulence and execration and indignation and anger with flaming, devouring fire as he burnt Sodom, so likewise will he burn his land and his city and all that is his, and he will be blotted out of the book of the discipline of the children of men, and not be recorded in the book of life, but in that which is appointed to destruction, and he will depart into eternal execration, so that their condemnation may be always renewed in hate and in execration and in wrath and in torment and in indignation and in plagues and in disease forever. That doesn't sound like a short-term, after you die, you're destroyed, and that's it. That says renewed torment, plagues, disease forever. I say and testify to you, my sons, according to the judgment which will come upon the man who wishes to injure his brother. And he divided all his possessions between the two on that day, and he gave the larger portion to him that was the firstborn, and the tower and all that was about it, and all that Abraham possessed at the well of the oath, Tower of Abraham. And he said, this larger portion I shall give to the firstborn. And Esau said, I have sold to Jacob and given my birthright to Jacob, to him let it be given, and I have not a single word to say regarding it, for it is his. And Isaac said, may a blessing rest upon you, my sons, and upon your seed this day, for you have given me rest, and my heart is not pained concerning the birthright, lest thou shouldst work wickedness on account of it. May the Most High Yahuwah bless the man that worketh righteousness, him and his seed forever. And he ended, commanding them and blessing them. And they ate and drank together before him, and he rejoiced, because there was one mind between them. And they went forth from him, and rested that day, and slept. And Isaac slept on his bed that day rejoicing, and he slept the eternal sleep, and died 180 years old. He completed 25 weeks and 5 years. And his two sons Esau and Jacob buried him, and Esau went to the land of Edom, to the mountains of Seir, and dwelt there. And Jacob dwelt in the mountains of Hebron, in the tower of the land of the sojournings of his father Abraham. And he worshipped Yahuwah with all his heart, and according to the visible commands, according as he had divided the days of his generations. And Leah his wife died in the 4th year of the 2nd week, in the 45th jubilee, and he buried her in the double cave near Rebekah his mother, to the left of the grave of Sarah his father's mother. And all her sons and his sons came to mourn over Leah his wife with him, and to comfort him regarding her, for he was lamenting her. For he loved her exceedingly after Rachel her sister died, for she was perfect and upright in all her ways, and honored Jacob. And all the days that she lived with him, he did not hear from her mouth a harsh word, for she was gentle and peaceable and upright and honorable. And he remembered all her deeds which she had done during her life, and he lamented her exceedingly, for he loved her with all his heart and with all his soul. And this is Jubilees 37. On that day that Isaac, father of Jacob and Esau, died, the sons of Esau heard that Isaac had given the portion of the elder to his younger son Jacob, and they were very angry. So pretty much the sons are upset. They caused the father to go to battle with the brother, Esau to go to battle with Jacob. And Jacob kills Esau. So then he spake, yeah. So Esau goes back on what he said, and he attacks Jacob. Judah tells Jacob to bend your bow, father, and send forth your arrows, cast down the adversary. So, yep, all the sons, Judah, Naphtali, Gad, Levi, Dan, Asher, Reuben, Issachar, Zebulun, they go out to battle. Simeon, Benjamin, Enoch, Reuben's son. That's interesting. And Jacob buried his brother. And Jacob pressed hard upon the sons of Esau and bowed their necks, and they became servants to Jacob. And the sons of Edom have not quit of the yoke of servitude which the 12 sons of Jacob had imposed on them until this day. And this day is when Moses is receiving jubilees on Mount Sinai. Kings of Edom. Yep. You got the kings of Edom there. Gives a genealogy. These are the kings who reigned in Edom. There's Balak. You'll notice him in the Torah. Or here we go. Balak, the son of Beor, reigned in Edom. And Joseph's service. So you got a lot of history in there that's missing in Jubilees. And Joseph was 17 years old when they took him down to the land of Egypt. All right, so that's where we pick up in Genesis, chapter 38. And happy Sabbath, Electra and Mayan. Sorry. All right. And it came to pass at that time, chapter 38, that Judah went down from his brethren and turned into a certain Adulamite, whose name was Hirah. And Judah saw there a daughter of a certain Canaanite, whose name was Shua, and he took her and went in unto her. And she conceived and bare a son, and he called his name So there's Judah taking a Canaanite wife. Not supposed to do that. And she conceived again and bare a son, and she called his name Onan. And she yet again conceived and bare a son, and called his name Shelah. And he was at Chezib when she bare him. And Judah took a wife for his firstborn, whose name was Tamar. And Judah's firstborn, was wicked in the sight of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah slew him. And Judah said unto Onan, Go unto thy brother's wife, and marry her, and raise up seed to thy brother. And Onan knew that the seed should not be his. And it came to pass, when he went in unto his brother's wife, that he spilled it on the ground, lest that he should give seed to his brother. And the thing which he did displeased Yahuwah, wherefore he slew him also. Then said Judah to Tamar his daughter-in-law, Remain a widow at thy father's house, till Shelah my son be grown. For he said, Lest peradventure he die also, as his brethren did. And Tamar went and dwelt in her father's house. And in process of time the daughter of Shua, Judah's wife, died. And Judah was comforted, and went up unto his sheep shearers to Timnath, he and his friend Hira the Adulamite. And it was told Tamar, saying, Behold, thy father-in-law goeth up to Timnath to shear his sheep. And she put her widow's garments off from her, and covered her face with a veil, and wrapped herself, and sat in an open place, which is by the way of to Timnath. For she saw that Shelah was grown, and she was not given unto him to wife. When Judah saw her, he thought her to be a harlot, because she had covered her face. And he turned unto her by the way, and said, Go to, I pray thee, let me come in unto thee. For he knew not that she was his daughter-in-law. And she said, What wilt thou give me, that thou mayest come in unto me? And he said, I will send thee a kid from the flock. And she said, Wilt thou give me a pledge till thou send it? And he said, What pledge shall I give thee? And she said, Thy signet, and thy bracelets, and thy staff that is in thine hand. And he gave it to her. He gave it her, and came in unto her, and she conceived by him. And she arose and went away, and laid by her veil from her, and put on the garments of her widowhood. And Judah sent the kid by the hand of his friend the Adulamite to receive his pledge from the woman's hand, but he found her not. Then he asked the men of that place, saying, Where is the harlot that was openly by the wayside? And they said, There was no harlot in this place. And he returned to Judah and said, I cannot find her. And also the men of the place said that there was no harlot in this place. And Judah said, Let her take it to her, lest we be shamed. Behold, I sent this kid, and thou hast not found her. And it came to pass about 3 months later that it was told Judah, saying, Tamar thy daughter-in-law hath played the harlot, and also, behold, she is with child by whoredom. And Judah said, Bring her forth, and let her be burnt. When she was brought forth, she sent to her father-in-law, saying, By the man whose these are, am I with child? And she said, Discern, I pray thee, whose are these, the signet and bracelets and staff? And Judah acknowledged them, and said, She hath been more righteous than I, because that I gave her not to Shelah my son, and he knew her again no more. And it came to pass in the time of her travail, that behold, twins were in her womb. And it came to pass, when she traveled, that the one put out his hand, and the midwife took and bound upon his hand a scarlet thread, saying, This came out first. And it came to pass, as he drew back his hand, that, behold, his brother came out, and she said, How hast thou broken forth? This breach be upon thee. Therefore his name was called Pharez. And afterward came out his brother, that had the scarlet thread upon his hand, and his name was called Zerah. So you see in, Matthew. In the genealogy of the Messiah, that Abraham begot Isaac, and Isaac begot Jacob. Jacob begot Judas and his brethren, and Judas begot Pharez and Zerah of Tamar. The genealogy of the Messiah. And you got now the birth of the Messiah. 14. 39. Now this word Jubilees is missing the account in 38. 39 is where Jubilees picks up, and Joseph was brought down into Egypt. And we've got 11, 15. So we got some at verse 11 in the Dead Sea Scrolls. 39. Yep. 11 to a little bit. So, and Joseph was brought down to Egypt, and Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh, captain of the guard, an Egyptian, brought him of the hands of the Ishmaelites, which had brought him down thither. And Yahuwah was with Joseph, and he was a prosperous man, and he was in the house of his master the Egyptian. And his master saw that Yahuwah was with him, and that Yahuwah made all that he did to prosper in his hand. And Joseph found grace in his sight, and he served him, and he made him overseer over his house, and all that he had put into his hand. And it came to pass from the time that he had made him overseer in his house, and over all that he had, that Yahuwah blessed the Egyptian's house for Joseph's sake. And the blessing of Yahuwah was upon all that he had in the house and in the field. And he left all that he had in Joseph's hand, and he knew not all he had, save the bread which he did eat. And Joseph was a goodly person and well favored. And it came to pass after these things that his master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, Lie with me. But he refused, and said unto his master's wife, Behold, my master wotteth not what is with me in the house, and he hath committed all that he hath to my hand. There is none greater in this house than I, neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against Yahuwah? And it came to pass, as she spake to Joseph day by day, that he hearkened not unto her to lie with her or to be with her. And it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the men of the house there within. And she caught him by his garment, saying, Lie with me. And he left his garment in her hand and fled and got him out. And there was none men in the house inside. Yep. Left hand in his garment in his hand and ran outside. When she saw that he had left his garment in her hand and ran outside, she called to the men of her house and spoke to them, saying, Behold, he has brought a Hebrew in to us to mock us. He came in to me to lie with me, and I cried with a loud voice. When he heard that I lifted up my voice and cried, he left his garment by me and ran outside. She laid up his garment by her until his master come home. She spoke to him according to these words, saying, The Hebrew servant whom you have brought to us came in to me to mock me. And as I lifted up my voice and cried, he left his garment by me and ran outside. When his master heard the words of his wife, which she spoke to him, saying, This is what your servant did to me, his wrath was kindled. Joseph's master took him and put him into the prison, the place where the king's brothers were bound, and he was there in custody. But Yahuwah, was with Joseph, and showed kindness to him, and gave him favor in the sight of the keeper of the prison. The keeper of the prison committed to to Joseph's hand all the prisoners who were in the prison. Whatever they did there, he was responsible for it. The keeper of the prison didn't look after anything that was under his hand, because Yahuwah was with him, and that which he did, Yahuwah made it prosper. So we got up to 23. 23. Yep. So that's the end of that. Chapter 40. Jubilees. Joseph was 17 years old, brought down to the land of Egypt, and Potiphar, a eunuch of Pharaoh, the chief cook, bought him. And he set Joseph over all his house, and the blessing of Yahuwah came upon the house of the Egyptian. This Jubilee is 39. And blessing on the house of the Egyptian on account of Joseph, and Yahuwah prospered him in all that he did. And the Egyptian committed everything into the hands of Joseph, for he saw that Yahuwah was with him, and that Yahuwah prospered him in all that he did. And Joseph's appearance was comely, and very beautiful was his appearance. And his master's wife lifted up her eyes and saw Joseph, and she loved him, and besought him to lie with her. But he did not surrender his soul, and he remembered that Yahuwah and the words which Jacob his father used to read from amongst the words of Abraham, the book of Abraham, that's in the Dead Sea Scrolls. You'll see, I don't know if I can find it, but if you go to, I don't know if I can find it. I can try to find it. Abraham had a book. So here's the Dead Sea Scrolls. Can't remember where it's at. See, this is third person here. Say Isaac said to Abraham, and Abraham said to Isaac. That means somebody else is writing this from a third person's perspective. But when you get to with Abraham, so you can tell when they're writing about Abraham, and you can tell when Abraham's talking. Talking about himself. Yeah. Can't remember where it's at. But you'll see. He'll say, I did this and I did that. It's Abraham. It's in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So there's a book of Abraham. Read from amongst the words of Abraham. He tells you right there. And it's in part of it's in the Dead Sea Scrolls. Probably not the whole thing. That no man should commit fornication with a woman who hath a husband, that for him the punishment of death hath been ordained in the heavens before the Most High, Yahuwah. So Abraham taught the law. It's not a new thing when it was given at Mount Sinai. The eternal law is eternal. Enoch had it. Noah had it. Abraham had it. He wrote about it. He read Enoch. He read Noah. And if people knew the history, then they wouldn't say stupid stuff. And Joseph remembered these words and refused to lie with her. And she besought him for a year, but he refused and would not listen. So Joseph remembered the words of Abraham, the writings of Abraham. But she embraced him and held fast held him fast in the house in order to force him to lie with her, and closed the doors of the house and held him fast. But he left his garment in her hands and broke through the door and fled without from her presence. And the woman saw that he would not lie with her, and she calumniated him in the presence of his master, saying, Thy Hebrew servant, whom thou lovest, sought to force me so that he might lie with me. And it came to pass, when I lifted up my voice, that he fled and left his garment in my hands. When I held him, and he brake through the door, and the Egyptians saw the garment of Joseph and the broken door, and heard the words of his wife, and cast Joseph into prison, into the place where the prisoners were kept, whom the king imprisoned. And he was there in the prison, and Yahuwah gave Joseph favor in the sight of the chief of the prison guards, and compassion before him, for he saw that Yahuwah was with him, and that Yahuwah made all that he did to prosper, and he committed all things into his hands. And the chief of the prison guards knew of nothing that was with him, for Joseph did everything, and Yahuwah perfected it. And there he remained there 2 years. So we'll pick up there. And we got Genesis 40, the Dead Sea Scrolls. After these things, the butler of the king of Egypt and his baker offended their master, the king of Egypt. So that's all we got until 12. The butler and the baker offended Pharaoh. And Pharaoh was wroth against 2 of his officers, against the chief of the butlers and against the chief of the bakers. And he put them in ward in the house of the captain of the guard, into the prison, the place where Joseph was bound. And the captain of the guard charged Joseph with them, and he served them, and they continued a season in ward. And they dreamed a dream, both of them, each man his dream in one night, each man according to the interpretation of his dream, the butler and the baker of the king of Egypt, which were bound in the prison. And Joseph came in unto them in the morning, and looked upon them, and behold, they were sad. And he asked Pharaoh's officers that were with him in the ward of his master's house, saying, Wherefore look you so sadly today? And they said unto him, We have dreamed a dream, and there is no interpreter of it. And Joseph said unto them, Do not interpretations belong to Yahuwah? Tell me them, I pray you. And the chief butler told his dream to Joseph, and said to him, In my dream, behold, a vine was before me. And in the vine were 3 branches, and it was as though it budded, and her blossoms shot forth, and the clusters thereof brought forth ripe grapes. And let's see, 11, 12. And Pharaoh's cup was in my hand, and I took the grapes and pressed them into Pharaoh's cup, and I gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. Joseph said to him, This is its interpretation. The 3 branches are 3 days. Within 3 more days, Pharaoh will lift up your head and restore you to your office. You will give Pharaoh's cup into his hand, the way you did when you were his cupbearer. So you got 18. When thou former manner, when thou was his butler. So cupbearer, butler. But think on me when it shall be well with thee, and show kindness, I pray thee, unto me, and make mention unto me of me unto Pharaoh, and bring me out of this house. For indeed I was stolen away out of the land of the Hebrews, and here also I have done nothing that they should put me into the dungeon. The land of the Hebrews. Israel wasn't given Israel yet. What's he talking about? Inheritance of Shem. When the chief baker saw that the interpretation was good, he said unto Joseph, I also was in my dream, and behold, I had 3 white baskets on my head. And in the uppermost basket there was all manner of baked meats for Pharaoh, and the birds did eat them out of the basket upon my head. And Joseph answered, This is its interpretation. The 3 baskets are 3 days. Within 3 more days Pharaoh will lift up your head from off you, and will hang you on a tree, and the birds will eat the flesh from off you. On the 3rd day, which was Pharaoh's birthday, he made a feast for all his servants, and he lifted up the head of the chief bearer and the head of the chief baker among his servants. What's it say there? Oh, on the third day, Pharaoh's birthday. He lifted his head off of him and hung him on a tree on his birthday. Pharaoh's birthday. Cup into Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker as Joseph had interpreted it to them. He restored. Let's see. He restored. Where's that stop at? 20. He restored the chief cupbearer to his position again, and he gave the cup into Pharaoh's hand. But he hanged the chief baker as Joseph had interpreted to them. Yet the chief cupbearer didn't remember Joseph, but forgot him. So 23. King James Version. Forget him. 41. 2 years. Okay, he remained there 2 years. So it tells you how long he was in the prison. 2 years. Those days, Pharaoh, king of Egypt, was wroth against his 2 eunuchs, against the chief butler and against the chief baker, and he put them in ward in the house of the chief cook. That's Jubilees 39. And the prison where Joseph was kept, and the chief of the prison guards appointed Joseph to serve them, and he served before them, and they both dreamed a dream, the chief butler and the chief baker, and they told it to Joseph, and as he interpreted to them, so it befell them. And Pharaoh restored the chief butler to his office, and the chief baker he slew, as Joseph had interpreted to them. But the chief butler forgot Joseph in the prison, although he had informed him what would befall him, and did not remember to inform Pharaoh how Joseph had told him, for he forgot. And in those days, Pharaoh dreamed dreams. So that's Jubilees. Okay, that was Jubilees 39. Here's 40. And got Genesis chapter 41. Pharaoh dreamed. Took a wife. Yep. So 41. What we got in here? Got 11. Got a pretty good account in the Dead Sea Scrolls. So 41. At the end of 2 full years, Pharaoh dreamed, and behold, he stood by the river. Behold, there came up out of the river 7 cattle, sleek and fat, and they fed on the marsh grass. Behold, 7 other cattle came up after them out of the river, ugly and thin, and stood by the other cattle on the brink of the river. The ugly and thin cattle ate up the 7 sleek and fat cattle. So Pharaoh woke. He slept and dreamed a second time, and behold, 7 heads of grain came up on the one stalk, healthy and good. Behold, 7 heads of grain, thin and blasted with the east wind, sprung up after them. The thin and blasted heads of grain swallowed up the 7 healthy and full ears. Pharaoh awoke, and behold, it was a dream. In the morning his spirit was troubled, and he sent and called for all of Egypt's magicians and wise men. Pharaoh told them his dreams, but there was no one who could interpret them to Pharaoh. Then the chief cupbearer spoke to Pharaoh, saying, I remember my faults today. Pharaoh was angry with his servants and put me in the custody in the house of the captain of the guard with the chief baker. We dreamed a dream, and one night, he and I, we dreamed each man according to the interpretation of his dream. See 11. We got 15 from another scroll here. So 11, and we dreamed a dream. There was there with us a young man, a Hebrew, servant to the captain of the guard, and we told him, and he interpreted to us our dreams. To each man according to his dream he did interpret. And it came to pass as he interpreted to us, so it was. Me he restored unto mine office, and him he hanged. Then Pharaoh sent and called Joseph, and they brought him hastily out of the dungeon, and he shaved himself, and changed his raiment, and came in unto Pharaoh. 15. Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have dreamed a dream, and there is no one who can interpret it. I have heard it said of you that when you hear a dream, you can interpret it. This is another scroll fragment, 4Q9. Joseph answered Pharaoh, saying, without me, Yahuwah will not give Pharaoh an answer of peace. And the KJV says, it isn't in me. So here it says, Joseph says, without me, Yahuwah will not give you an answer. Pharaoh spoke to Joseph, in my dream, behold, I stood on the brink of the river, and behold, there came up out of the river 7 cattle, fat and sleek. They fed in the marsh grass. 17. I'll work through these fragments here. No, not really. Let's see. 17 to 23. And 7 kind of fat flesh. They fed in a meadow. And behold, 7 other kind came up after them, poor and very ill-favored and lean-fleshed, such as I never saw in all the land of Egypt for badness. And the lean and the ill-favored kind did eat up the first 7 fat kind. And when they had eaten them up, it could not be known that they had eaten them, but they were still ill-favored as at the beginning. So I awoke. And I saw in my dream, and behold, 7 ears came up in one stalk, full and good. 23. And behold, 7 ears. And behold, 7 heads of grain, withered, thin, and blasted with the east wind, sprung up after them. The 7 thin heads of grain swallowed up the 7 good heads of grain, and I told it to the magicians, but there was no one who could explain it to me. Joseph said to Pharaoh, the dream of Pharaoh is one. What Yahuwah is about to do, he has declared to Pharaoh. The 7 good cattle are 7 years, and the 7 good heads of grain are 7 years. The dream is one. The 7 thin and ugly cattle that came up after them are 7 years, and also the 7 empty heads of grain blasted with the east wind. They will be 7 years of famine. 28. This is the thing which I have spoken unto Pharaoh. What Yahuwah is about to do, he showeth unto Pharaoh. Behold, 7 years of great plenty throughout all the land of Egypt are coming. 7 years of famine will arise after them, and all the plenty will be forgotten in the land of Egypt. The famine will consume the land, and the plenty will not be known in the land by reason of that famine which follows, for it will be very grievous. The dream was doubled to Pharaoh, because the thing is established by Yahuwah, and Yahuwah will shortly bring it to pass. Now therefore let Pharaoh look for a discreet and wise man, and set him over the land of Egypt. Let Pharaoh do this, and let him appoint overseers over the land, and take up the 5th part of the land of Egypt's produce in the 7 plenteous years. Let them gather all the food of these good years that come, and store grain under the hand of Pharaoh for food in the cities, and let them keep it. The food will be to supply the land against the 7 years of famine, which will be in the land of Egypt, so that the land will not perish through the famine. 36. And the thing was good in the eyes of Pharaoh, and in the eyes of all his servants. And Pharaoh said to his servants, can we find such a one as this, a man in whom is the spirit of Yahuwah? Pharaoh said to Joseph, because Yahuwah has shown you all of this, there is no one so discreet and wise as you. You shall be over my house, and according to your word will all my people be ruled. Only in the throne will I be greater than you. Pharaoh said to Joseph, behold, I have set you over all the land of Egypt. Pharaoh took off his signet ring from his hand, and put it on Joseph's hand, and arrayed him in robes of fine linen, and put a gold chain about his neck. He made him ride in the 2nd chariot which he had. They cried before him, bow the knee. He set him over all the land of Egypt. 42. Got some decent sized fragments there. Sheol. So we're all the way up to 42. 41. Birthday. 3 days. It's interesting. Daniel could interpret dreams. Enoch could interpret dreams. Joseph could interpret dreams. Seemed like the prophets had a lot in common. Scroll label 4Q Gen contains a precursor to the following reading found in both the Septuagint and the Samaritan Pentateuch text. Because of the potentially arrogant interpretation of this particular version, it could be read as, apart from me, Joseph, God will give no answer concerning the welfare of Pharaoh. It is possible that a scribe in antiquity removed the second negative to protect the character of Joseph, or to hide the character of Joseph. The Septuagint, Samaritan Pentateuch, may in fact represent the original version. So we got a second witness to Joseph saying, apart from me, Pharaoh, you will get no answer. So that's what? 41. What do you say? 41:15. Take a look at it right quick. 41, Brenton Septuagint, 41:15. Pharaoh said to Joseph, I have seen a vision, there is no one to interpret it, but I have heard say concerning thee that thou dost hear dreams and interpret them. And Joseph answered Pharaoh and said, without God an answer of safety shall not be given to Pharaoh. I like digging in. Don't just take their word for it. Say, Pharaoh said to Joseph, in reply to which Joseph said to Pharaoh, without God no answer of peace can be given to Pharaoh. I wonder. Well, it looks like the original in the Dead Sea Scrolls preserves it. So we got those days. Yep. Pharaoh dreamed 2 dreams. This is Jubilees 40. One night concerning a famine which was to be in all the land, and he woke from his sleep and called the interpreters of dreams that were in Egypt and magicians and told them his 2 dreams, and they were not able to declare them. And then the chief butler remembered Joseph and spake of him. Sorry, let me zoom in a little bit. And spake of him to the king, and he brought him forth from the prison, and he told his 2 dreams before him, and he said before Pharaoh that his 2 dreams were one, and he said unto him, 7 years will come in which there will be plenty over all the land of Egypt, and after that 7 years of famine, such a famine as had not been in all the land. And now let Pharaoh appoint overseers in all the land of Egypt, and let them store up food in every city throughout the days of the years of plenty, and there will be food for the 7 years of famine, and the land will not perish through the famine, for it will be very severe. And Yahuwah gave Joseph favor and mercy in the eyes of Pharaoh, and Pharaoh said unto his servants, we shall not find such a wise and discreet man as this man, for the spirit of Yahuwah is with him. And he appointed him the second in all his kingdom, and gave him authority over all Egypt, and caused him to ride in the second chariot of Pharaoh. And he clothed him with byssus garments, And he put a gold chain upon his neck, and a herald proclaimed before him, El Wa Abir, Abirur, Abirur. And he placed a ring on his hand, and made him ruler over all his house, and magnified him, and said unto him, Only on the throne shall I be greater than thou. And Joseph ruled over all the land of Egypt, and all the princes of Pharaoh, and all his servants, and all who did the king's business loved him, for he walked in uprightness, for he was without pride and arrogance. All loved him. He was without pride and arrogance. And he had no respect of persons. He did not accept gifts. He judged in uprightness all the people of the land. So he didn't respect persons. He didn't accept gifts. He judged in uprightness. And he was without pride and arrogance. Can you have all of them? Looks like Joseph did. And the land of Egypt was at peace before Pharaoh because of Joseph, for Yahuwah was with him and gave him favor and mercy for all his generations before all those who knew him and those who heard concerning him. And Pharaoh's kingdom was well ordered, and there was no Satan and no evil person therein. And the king called Joseph's name Sephatin. There's another word. Sephantephans. I don't know. And gave Joseph to wife the daughter of Potiphar, the daughter of the priest of Heliopolis, the chief cook. And on that day, the day that Joseph stood before Pharaoh, he was 30 years old when he stood before Pharaoh. And in that year Isaac died, and it came to pass as Joseph had said in the interpretation of his two dreams, according as he had said it. And stop there. Let's just stop there. Interesting. Pharaoh was 30 years old. Priest of Heliopolis. I like to do this sometimes when I'm studying too. Just look in here. Can't trust everything you find, so you got to kind of test it. Look around. Heliopolis. Ancient Egyptian. Oh, hey, look at that. Obelisk. Heliopolis. One of the oldest cities in ancient Egypt, occupied since the pre-dynastic period. Obelisk of the Temple of Ra-Atum. Oldest surviving obelisk in the world. London and New York. Cleopatra's. But they tell us America is one nation under God. Which God? Heliopolis is Latinized city of the sun. You'll see that in I think Septuagint and Jeremiah, city of the sun, Heliopolis. Or you'll see Heliopolis in the Hebrew Jeremiah, and you'll see city of the sun in the Septuagint Jeremiah. So, very interesting. And that is 42, 41. All right, so we finished 41. All right, 41. I'm going to end it there and work. Right, because a bribe ruins people. Yeah. Yeah, bribe, pride. Tons of pitfalls. Tons of things that can ruin us. He said, be careful. What's he saying? Fall. That's Peter. What do you say? Yeah, careful. Or was it Paul? I can remember what it said, but I can't remember. Careful to maintain good works. Those which believe, be careful to maintain. Oh, that's a good verse right there. Titus 3:8. This is a faithful saying. These things I will that thou affirm constantly, that they which have believed in Yahuwah, every Christian said, we believe, we believe. Be careful to do good works. These things are good and profitable unto men. 10 Commandments. Good starting point. And that's why Paul's hard to understand, because then one in Titus he'll say, be careful. And then over here in Philippians he goes, be careful for nothing. Come on, Paul. Yeah. Something like careful while you're preaching, that you don't fall yourself. I can't remember where it's at. Anyways, so yep, just stick with that there. All right. Well, happy Sabbath again, and hope this is helpful to somebody.